This One's Wife. Funneled cash backfires. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We get another example of the way that this one's wife's narcissism causes her to behave in a particular way, and it then has the collateral consequences. It bears repeating. Everything that she does in relation to other people or the prospective interaction with other people is governed by her narcissism. It's nothing else. It's not crazy. It's not being a mean girl. It's not being an awful, evil human being. It's simply driven by her narcissism. You want to understand why does she do as she does? Narcissism is behind it. The relentless pursuit of those prime aims, and that her narcissism causes her to act in a way without emotional empathy, with a sense of entitlement, with a lack of accountability, to be manipulative, to fail to recognize boundaries, to be grandiose and to be haughty and dismissive, to exhibit magical thinking, in order to get to those prime aims. Whenever you see somebody asking, why is she doing this? Answer, narcissism. What is she thinking? Driven by her narcissism. Did she think that that was a good idea? She did, driven by her narcissism. It is the answer to all of her behaviours, although there are still people who just don't get it. This time we have another instance of how her narcissism has driven her to behave in a high-handed and arrogant fashion, and now it's coming back to bite her on the backside. The New York Post reports, this one's wife and Prince Harry have funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars to controversial political operatives through their charity, according to documents reviewed by the New York Post. Now, why is this a problem? Why is it a problem that they have sent money to other people? Well, first of all, this money doesn't belong to them. They will have distributed funds that Archwell has received, which is supposedly some form of foundation. So first of all, there is an asset appropriation of donated money that is utilised for their own purposes. We know, because of the way the foundation has been structured, that they regularly use it for the payment of transport and security and expenses, etc., so that they are basically using other people's donated money to fund themselves. Moreover, the distributions of this money have been used in a way which it is questionable as to how this is actually turning up and doing good, as they often tell us the motto is. Furthermore, this one's wife and Harry are still, although they don't behave like it, royalty. Why? Well, they still continue to use the titles. This one's wife clings onto it, and she will do so. You will have to prize it from her cold, dead hands before she will relinquish that title, because to a narcissist, the title gives her status, which is part of her self-absorbed grandiosity. It also provides her with the means of triangulating people with it. It enables her to utilize the prime aims as a consequence of the presence of this title. They are not meant to get involved in political matters, because where this money has gone to is political operatives. Furthermore, Harry's a foreign national, and he could be argued to have actually contravened a statute against foreign nationals interfering in the political process in the United States. It wouldn't be a surprise if old Dumbugger has done something like this under the auspices of attempting to make themselves look good and to control the narrative. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been spending big on high-level Democrat Party-aligned sources, according to public records, including hiring a disinformation expert who worked at a company involved in every high-profile US election since the 90s. Naturally, it's only disinformation when it contravenes the narrative of control for this one's wife. To everybody else, it's known as the truth. But this is representative of her narcissism to look to hire somebody using other people's money in order to nullify threats to control. It's reported the move could further widen the divide between Harry and his family after brother Prince William recently met with President Donald Trump. King Charles is also said by the British press to have made a good relationship with Trump since he was last in office in 2020, and the president has expressed his support for both. The Archwell Foundation, the Californian-based non-profit started by Harry and this one's wife in 2020, doled out $146,500 to Hiory Craig in 2023, an independent media strategist who has been called the Democrats' go-to for countering disinformation. The group also donated $25,000 to the Marcy Lab School in Brooklyn, where Craig joined the board in 2024, public records show. And in 2022, Craig also took in $120,000 from Archwell, per the federal filings. Craig previously worked at Washington, D.C. research firm Greenberg, Quinlan and Rosner. Regarded as an expert on elections, Craig worked her way up to being Senior Director of Digital Strategy by 2016, and then became Vice President of the company between 2018 and 2021. The firm's website boasts of how it helped Bill Clinton become president in 1992, and then helped our client's campaign win, govern, and win again. One of the company's digital strategies during the last election cycle was to counter narratives about Joe Biden's age, i.e. nullify threats to control, and negative comments about his family, nullify threats to control. Archwell also gave $90,000 to Markup News, Inc., a New York-based non-profit also funded by Craigslist founder Craig Newmark and controversial billionaire and Democratic megadonor George Soros's Open Society Foundations. The charity's funding of progressive democratic causes has raised eyebrows. Niall Gardner, a fellow at conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation, has called for Archwell's donations to be scrutinised by Congress. Harry and this one's wife still retain royal titles and should not be engaging in any way in political activity, said Gardner. It's actually outrageous. Archwell's biggest donation, $250,000, was to the Women's Wellness Space, a Pennsylvania-based charity set up by Ashley Biden, daughter of former President Biden in 2023, and I've mentioned in parts past him. The charity's mission is to help women impacted by trauma, according to reports. It opened its doors in 2024. Archwell also doled out $155,050 to Hurley Loughran, a firm run by two former Buckingham Palace aides, Beth Hurley and Clara Loughran, also for programmatic strategic services. A spokesperson for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex said, "It's important to note the Duke and Duchess did not endorse any candidate in the 2024 presidential election." What's that got to do with where they've been sending the money? And to suggest that they're trying to curry favour with the Democratic party, simply because a donation went to Ashley Biden's non-partisan non-profit focused on women's mental health, or because they hired a consultant specialising in digital safety, is misguided. The Duke and Duchess are committed to investing in people and initiatives that truly make a difference. Well, they've appropriated other people's money for purposes which serve their own interests, and it would appear that there is a link to them sending it for political purposes, which really does fly in the face of what Archwell's meant to do, and also that shows that two royal figures are interfering in political matters. Others will argue about the intent and also the extent to which they have fallen foul of all of this, but it demonstrates once again this one's wife's narcissism. A lack of boundary recognition through the asset appropriation, the high-handed haughtiness of deciding that the money can be used in this way, the necessity of nullifying threats to control by the utilisation of funds, the grandiosity of thinking such behaviour would not go noticed, the rule of collateral consequences coming home to roost once again. But what's also entertaining about this is the utter idiocy of these two in believing that these sums of money would make them somehow able to influence matters politically. You need tens of millions of dollars to be a proper political player. These two are completely small beer, and I mean very small beer with regard to asserting any political influence. Now, that's not to defend them and say, well, actually what they've done doesn't really have any impact. That's not the point. It's what they've done that matters, not the actual impact of it. And that will be scrutinised by the appropriate individuals to see if there is any actual transgression of statutes or the law. But what amuses me is that these two fucktards think that they're somehow being these big political players with what they've been doing, when the sums that they've been doling out in the context of political influence are pennies. But it demonstrates again just how deluded the gruesome twosome are, and is heartily amusing that their misguided attempts to throw their weight around using other people's money, which singularly fails in terms of actually having any meaningful impact because it's such small amounts, but then also it comes back to bite them on the bum. They achieve nothing, yet making themselves look stupid and potentially exposing them to further investigation. Round of applause for the fuckwits of Monty Shitshow. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.